Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. Today's Thursday, March 11th. I'm Stephanie Haney. I've got your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thanks for choosing to be here to get filled in on what you are all clicking on here in Northeast Ohio. Lots to get to today, so we're going to dive right into it. First up this afternoon, President Joe Biden officially signed the $1.9 trillion rescue package into law, the American Rescue Plan. Now, it had initially been planned to sign on Friday, but Congress was able to enroll the bill more quickly than the administration anticipated, so they signed that today. Chief of Staff Ron Klain tweeted that they wanted to move as fast as possible, and there will still be a signing celebration on Friday. That'll be as planned with congressional leaders. Another thing the House did, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed 2 bills to expand background checks for gun sales. Of course, this impacts the entire country, potentially, meaning also us here in Ohio. Now, this would be the first major new gun control laws in more than 2 decades, starting with stricter background checks. Now, of course, it's just passed the House. Both of these bills have just passed in the House. They do now need to move on to the Senate, and that would require significant bipartisan support in order to get it passed there. But what they would do is require background checks on all firearms sales and transfers and allow an expanded 10-day review for gun purchases. Now, bills similar to these passed the House in 2019. That was shortly after the Democrats won the majority in the House, but they literally sat in the Republican-controlled Senate for 2 years. Well, now, since the Senate is 50-50 with that tie-breaking vote to be cast by Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic members of Congress are hopeful that it will at least be considered in the Senate. But as I said, it does need significant bipartisan support to make it out of the Senate because it requires 60 votes in order to pass in the Senate. In Minnesota, we have an update for you on the trial of Derek Chauvin. The judge in the case has reinstated the third-degree murder charge. This has been a topic of conversation all week while jury selection has been underway, and this is something that delayed jury selection for a day. Here's what happened. Chauvin was this was a charge that was initially on the table. Well, starting this week, he was charged with second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. And previously, Chauvin's defense team had asked the judge to drop the charge of third-degree murder for lack of probable cause, and the judge agreed. Well, on March 5th, the Minnesota Court of Appeals said that that was an error and that the charge should be reconsidered. Well, at that point, Derek Chauvin's defense team appealed that decision from the Court of Appeals to reconsider dropping the charge to the Minnesota Supreme Court to review it. And on Wednesday, we learned that that appeal was denied. So the highest court in Minnesota is not going to take up the fact of whether or not that was appropriate call by the Court of Appeals. So from there, the court on Thursday heard arguments from both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, on whether the third-degree murder charge should be reinstated, and did rule to reinstate that charge. Now, the defense did not appeal, so jury selection will continue to move forward. The judge says that this does not apply to the 3 other former officers who will also be facing trial in the killing of George Floyd, which is what this is all about. And as of right now, we know that 6 jurors at least have been seated. They need to seat 8 more for the trial to be ready to move forward. But no matter what happens, no matter how quickly that happens, the judge says that opening statements will not start before March 29th. And we'll keep you apprised of what's going on between now and then. Now today, Governor Mike DeWine had his press conference today, and we're learning about new federal guidelines relating to nursing home residents. Nursing home residents who are vaccinated against COVID-19, again, let me repeat that, who are vaccinated against COVID-19, according to federal guidelines, can now get hugs from their loved ones and also have indoor visits allowed. The government said this on Wednesday. Now, hugs are okay for some residents, according to the government, who have completed their vaccination, but wearing masks and hand sanitizer is still in place as a counterbalance to that risk, and the federal government also underscoring that maintaining 6 feet of distance is still the safest policy, and outdoor visits are still preferable even when residents have been vaccinated. Now, Governor DeWine saying today that in terms of spring sports, if there is a student who has had an incidental exposure to COVID in a classroom but is not required to quarantine because that student is not experiencing symptoms, that student can participate in sports activities as long as they do not experience symptoms and the appropriate sports guidance is followed. Governor DeWine also bringing up county fairs. He says that he is hopeful that we'll be able to have full county fairs this year. He says that later today there will be updated guidance issued about limitations, but that he's hopeful by the time we get to fair season, we might be off the health orders, which we'll get to in just a minute. Now, about that road to reopening, actually, we'll get there right now. Governor DeWine has said that in order to lift all of the health orders, every single one of them here in the state of Ohio, the state needs to get to 50 cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 people. Well, right now, Ohio sits at 155 cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 people. Now, that's a pretty dramatic drop from what we saw even in December. So definitely on the right track to move toward the lifting of those health orders. So with that in mind, let's talk about where the numbers stand right here in Ohio. These numbers come from the Ohio Department of Health. In the last 24 hours, we've seen 1,448 new reported cases of COVID-19. This is down from yesterday. And the latest data we have on testing comes from Tuesday. There were about 40,000 COVID tests done on Tuesday. 3% of those came back positive. So that's about 1,200 COVID positive tests from Tuesday. And the 7-day average is remaining at 3%. Both of those numbers below that World Health Organization recommended threshold of 5%. We don't have any updated information on COVID-19 deaths for you. As we said, the state of Ohio is changing the way that those are being reporting. So when we have updated numbers for those, we will share them with you. There have been 112 new hospitalizations in the last 24 hours. That's down a couple from yesterday. And right now there are 908 people in Ohio that are hospitalized to be treated for COVID-19. That number is also down from yesterday. And of those people, 220 are being treated in the intensive care unit, also down from yesterday. And the total number of people, the new number of ICU admissions in the last 24 hours has been 10. That is up a few. Taking a look at where we stand in terms of vaccinations, right now, over 10.6% of Ohio's population is fully vaccinated. That's over 1.2 million people. And then the last day, 44,000 people have completed their vaccinations. Looking at who has started their vaccinations, there are now over 2,157,000 people in Ohio who have started the vaccination process. That's almost 18.5% of our population. And here's a big number that's encouraging. Nearly 72,000 more people started the vaccination process in the last 24 hours. We're seeing that number go up and up and up as more vaccinations become available here in Ohio. Let's take a quick look at the global and the national numbers. These come from Johns Hopkins University. Globally, the number of COVID cases reported is now at 118,318,924. The total number of deaths globally is now at 2,624,609. Our percentages of the cases and deaths remain steady from yesterday. We've got 4% of the global population here in the U.S., but the most cases and the most deaths, we have 24.7% of the COVID cases and 20.2% of the COVID deaths. Here in the U.S., the total numbers are 29,172,422 cases and 529,849 deaths. And now is a time to just take a moment and remember that today, March 11th, a year ago today, March 11th, 2020, is when COVID-19 was first declared a pandemic. So that's where we are right now. Right now, we're in that space where we're experiencing a lot of anniversaries. Remember, earlier this week was the anniversary of the first case being recorded here in Ohio. Today, a year ago today, is when this was declared a global pandemic. Now, in terms of prioritizing who gets the COVID-19 vaccine, Rite Aid is prioritizing scheduling for teachers, school staff, childcare providers, and so forth on today and tomorrow. So that's what Rite Aid is doing. And this, according to Jim Peters, who is the chief operating officer, is in line with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services directive to prioritize the vaccination of these people in order to help move forward with students getting back in the classrooms. Jim went on to say that this is a critical step to help address mental health concerns and education disparities for our most disadvantaged and vulnerable students. Talking about just one element of what he's talking about there is the digital divide. That's been a serious issue when it comes to students who are doing the virtual learning. Remember, not everyone has access to the internet. It's not as readily as available as we might like to think it is. So Peters went on to say that they continue to embrace their role in ending the pandemic. And if you want to take a look at Rite Aid to see about getting a COVID-19 vaccine, their scheduling tool is at riteaid.com/COVID-19. And if you want to take a look at the Ohio centralized portal for seeing where COVID-19 vaccines are available. That is gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov. Remember that is gettheshot.coronavirus.ohio.gov. You can find all of this at wkyc.com/vaccine. Something else that we have learned today about reopening: the city of Cleveland will be reopening outdoor pools and playgrounds this summer. They were all closed last year, remember, because of the pandemic. So Michael Cox, who is the director of Public Works, said that they'll be opening all 20 of the outdoor pools, and that is happening on June 12th. So mark your calendars for June 12th. Now, there will be limitations on how many people can get into the pools based on capacity levels, and this is how it will work. They will operate in 45-minute sessions, so you'll be able to access the pool for 45 minutes. They'll shut the center down. You'll leave. They'll take those 15 minutes and they'll clean, and then a new group will be able to come in for 45 minutes, and they'll do that process throughout the day. So here's what you can expect for when those pools will be open: Wednesday through Sunday, from noon to 7 p.m. And Cox said that if the temperatures go above 85 degrees, they'll be open 7 days a week. Now, good news for a Cleveland Cavaliers player, center Jarrett Allen. He's been named a new finalist for Team USA's basketball men's national team. That came out today. He's one of 15 new finalists for the USA basketball men's national team. That is a bit of a mouthful for me right now for some reason. So here's what's going on with that. The Summer Olympics are happening. They were postponed from 2020 to 2021. These are the Tokyo Summer Olympics. Because of that, the Team USA men's basketball team finalists field is a little bit larger than it was in years past. USA Basketball men's national team managing director Jerry Colangelo said that having a larger player pool than normal is critical because of all the uncertainties facing about availability. He says, but for USA Basketball to receive the commitment of so many outstanding players remains an indicator of the great honor of representing your country means to these men. Now, with the addition of center Jarrett Allen, that means that there are 4 Cleveland Cavaliers that are finalists for Team USA. That includes Kevin Love and JaVale McGee, also Andre Drummond. Now, who knows if he'll actually be a Cavalier by the time Team USA plays the summer in the 2021 Olympics, but as of right now, he is, and we celebrate that there are 4 Cavaliers who are one of the 57 finalists for Team USA. And here's a great story to end things on today. This just shows how people are willing to go out of their way to do something special for other people. Here's what happened. There was a little boy who was traveling with his family, and he was traveling on Southwest Airlines. Well, he got off a plane in Dallas, Texas, and unfortunately, he left his Buzz Lightyear toy on the plane. By the time they realized it, the plane had already taken off for Little Rock, Arkansas. So they figured maybe that was the last time they had seen this particular Buzz Lightyear. Well, on the Buzz Lightyear doll, it happened to say Hagen on the toy's foot. So when a gate agent was checking the plane in Little Rock, that person found the toy and saw that it said Hagen on the toy, and he checked the passenger list and he checked for a Hagen, and wouldn't you know it, that person sent the Buzz Lightyear doll back to Hagen. So a couple days later, him and his family got a package in the mail. Not only was the Buzz Lightyear toy returned, but it also had photos from its adventure and like a complete, just sort of like detailed mission of the Southwest Airlines mission for that Buzz Lightyear. So pretty cool moment for Hagen and his family. And thank you to that gate agent, Jason, in Little Rock, for doing something really special and getting Buzz Lightyear back to his rightful family. That is it for your 3 News Now update for Thursday, March 11th. I'll see you next up on What's New at 5 p.m. with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment. Here's a reminder, by the way, if you download the WKYC app, you can watch our news broadcasts for free right on your phone, live in the app. So if you don't yet have that, now's a great time to do that. And if you have downloaded it, it's also a great time to update it. Another thing that we're asking people for, if you are reuniting with people because you're vaccinated and it's now safe and all of that good stuff, we want to see that. So make sure you send us those reunion moments because we want to be able to share those on TV and online. I hope everyone gets a chance to enjoy this another day of beautiful weather that we've been experiencing. At least this morning when I went out, it was still in the 60-degree kind of zone. I hope that you're enjoying that weather wherever you are. And I will see you in a little bit at 5 o'clock, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for more 3 News Now. Everyone, stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.